Today, we have Sue Ojuki joining us for our conversation. Sue is a social entrepreneur with 15 years of experience who transitioned into full-time community development work, having already transitioned from working in finance, specifically banking. And welcome, Sue. How are you doing? Did I get that right? Do you want to tell us a bit more in your own words?
Yes. Thank you, Neville. Very happy to be here. And hi, everyone. My name is Sue Ojuki. I am from Kenya. Very happy to share this space with us today. As he's introduced, I primarily trained in finance. I worked in the banking sector for about 4 years before I transitioned into full-time community work, and that is where I currently serve. And over my career, I have probably transitioned workspaces 3, 4 times, and each of these has been informed by the different seasons in my life. So I'm very happy to be here and to share more with us. Thank you.
Thank you. So we really appreciate you taking the time. Let's start a little bit with where you're currently at, what you're involved with, and then we can give some context to how you got there and the different changes in your journey.
Mhm. Thank you very much. So currently I work at a grassroots organization called SpurAfrika, so spelled SPUR, Africa, where I deal with children and young adults, so children from the age of 9 all the way to 24. So they are school-going children, and we help support them to get through school. So in the country where I am right now, for some children, it's a little bit hard for them to access education, and that is what the organization I work for does. And I'm very happy about the space that I'm in because I get to be very intentional with the children that we serve, and I get also to, in my own small way, make a difference in a child's life. So that is my day-to-day interactions, and we also have other engagements with the caregivers of these children that we do through the year, so that we just make sure that the children are growing up in a holistic way as they get their education. Yeah.
Wow. So I saw that you're the director or one of the deputy directors of SpurAfrika, but it sounds like you're more hands-on than that, right?
Mm-hmm. So actually, SpurAfrika is an organization that I co-founded with my friend. It's been going on for 15 years. So as long as SpurAfrika has been in existence, I've been there. And
Wow.
it was basically, yeah, thank you. It was basically born out of a need in the community that we were born and raised in. So when my friend and I, his name is Patrick. So when Patrick and I were just having casual conversations one day, there was a challenge in our community, and we felt, how about we do something about this challenge? And actually, that is the way SpurAfrika was born. Yeah.
So you are the founder and you're still involved in an active way nowadays. Have you
Mm.
had, throughout your 15 years of career, did you maybe step back for a while and now you returned? I'm getting that sense. Or where is it always been your main focus?
Actually, when I mentioned before that I've transitioned careers a few times before, so after I graduated from college, which I had studied finance primarily, I had gotten a job first in a cooperative society, so it was with lawyers. So I had a short stint with working with lawyers and all that for about 6 months. And then I transitioned into banking. So that is what I had majorly studied for. And I worked there for about 4 years. So all this, especially in the time that I was doing the job at the bank, we were in the background working with my colleague on forming SPA. So once it grew to a level where we couldn't remotely oversee the way things working, then I transitioned out from the bank to work at SpurAfrika full time. So that is how I actually got into it full time and more hands on.
Yeah, so you already answered my next question because a lot of people want to have an impact, and if they're, doing a 9 to 5 job, how did you manage to balance the two? You're on the ground starting on the side a social enterprise. while working full time. Were
Mhm.
there uh, was there a way that you managed to handle it? How do you remember how you went about that during that time?
Uh, yeah, mostly. So what happened as far back as I can remember is I had
Sorry,
just
I'm asking. It's a while ago, right?
it's all good. Yeah, so what happened is in the process of us just forming SpurAfrika and getting it off the grounds, um, so my friend was also in university, and I was working at the job. So my work at the bank was very heavy. So I used to work 6 days a week, except for Saturdays. And then I had just what I worked for 6 hours on Saturday. So what used to happen is I could get the paperwork done. So all the things that needed looking into or typed up and all that. So we could do it. And then when I'm at work, then my friend would be able to follow that up just with the necessary registration bodies and all that. And back then, because we didn't have a lot of money to run on, we had someone that we could engage like on a casual basis. So after everything that we needed to do the documentation, then we would just have him help us to present the papers to the government for registration and all that. So that is how sort of the structure we used as we started. And as I mentioned, because we do education and mentorship, we had a few number of children at the start, about 2 children that we purely got into school out of us giving service to the schools. So teaching them about finance or leadership stuff, and then in exchange they would let the children study. So that is actually how we started and how we operated for about 3 years. So as the workload increased and it was getting a bit hard to spread ourselves thin, then the conversation of me getting into SpurAfrika full time started. And yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. I got in, and 15 years later, we are here and serving about 500 children through education and have even a wider reach through our various school based programs.
About 500. Did you imagine it would grow so much back then when you were still at the bank working 6 days a week?
Not really. So if someone asked me back then where the organization was going, I wouldn't know. I think in my wildest imagination, I thought we would get to maybe 30, because then we had no money. We were purely like we relied on our skills. Like we would go teach them a bit about finance or anything that we knew. And in exchange, they would let children go to school. But there was really great need as we progressed. And yeah, honestly, back then, I thought we would get to 30. So how we grew that into 500 direct beneficiaries and thousands of children being impacted through various programs, I would say is a miracle. So yeah, I'm very grateful that I was courageous. My friend and I were courageous to take the step to just start. Yeah.
Definitely there is courage. And now that I'm talking to you directly, I'm starting to realize that while there are transitions, and correct me because this is just my interpretation, there is still an underlying theme for you. And I can see in your eye how passionate you are about these children. In fact, I want to ask you, you worked this out originally with a friend, Patrick, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
having that partnership sounds like it really helped at first to spread the load. What was the need in the community that you identified originally? How did you go about it? So you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned there was a gap or a need in your community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think back then we had finished high school, as I remember, and so in my country back then, after you finished your secondary education, like your high school education, what would be like year 12, you have like a gap year, 1 year where you wait before you get posted into a university and all that. So I actually met Patrick in that gap year when you're like a young person, you're looking forward to life and all that. You don't have a job, you're not going to school, so you're sort of like in the middle. And we just used to engage in different activities just to help our community also back then. And in one of the conversations we were having, um, so us guys, it was okay. We understood why we were not in school. We were about 19, 20 years old. But in the same community we were in, there was also children who were like much younger. They were like 9, 8, 11, like basically below 10, 15 years of age, and they were not at school. So this got us curious as to uh, these children who are not in school, and school back then was maybe $30 for the school term or around $100 for the school year. So we felt like we don't really have money, but if we put our efforts together, maybe we can get what $100, $200, and we could try and help these children get to school. And it was really in that era where uh, there was a lot of talk about how education can impact people's lives. The area where we serve is a low income settlement in Nairobi, and I personally really felt bad. Like this child, if nothing is done about their situation, like if they don't get education access and all that, then they will just revolve. They don't go to school, they grow older, they get involved in vices, they ruin their life and all that. But if $100 can make a difference in their life, then surely we can try and do something. So that is the conversation we had. And we got other friends we talked to, and they were happy to help. And that is how we got three other children to school. So we got five. And yeah, it just kept growing from then on. So every year since then, we've taken 10 children to like onto our sponsorship program. And that is like sort of how it grew. Yeah.
So it was literally, you noticed the need of one child and
Mm-hmm.
it grew organically, sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm also interested in how you approached it. So you said you went to the schools and you also, apart from sponsored the kids to start education, you taught them financial skills or anything that you already knew, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is
Mm-hmm.
a link I see with what you were doing in your previous career, right? And your
Yeah.
banking career. Is
Yes.
that why you were teaching financial literacy at first?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I, there's so when we saw there was need, and we wanted to do something about the need, and we were barely, we didn't have money ourselves also. So while we would have loved to go to pay for the children's tuition, that would have been the easiest. We wouldn't have needed to register an organization, but we didn't have the money. So we just like had conversations and look within ourselves, like, so what do we have? So even in as we started this, now that I'm thinking about it, I knew that I had a skill in banking and finance. Back then, I didn't see how they would connect to my community work. And but looking back, it's more of a question of, so, okay, you don't have money, but what do you have? So then, okay, we have skill. I'm learning about finance in uni, and I'm sure everybody wants to learn ways of how they can grow their money or how their money works for them. And we figured teachers have money, at least they are paid at the end of the month. So if we teach them about finance, they could be gracious and let these children study. So that is sort of like the approach we took. And my friend was studying leadership, so managing children and teachers is no easy thing. So that is also an approach that we embraced. Teach the teachers how to manage the children. In Kenya, the schools then were embracing a lot of governance in schools. So we also trained the children student leaders how to be better leaders. So it sort of like worked for us. And we are happy. We have since stopped doing that, but maybe it's something that we should consider. Yeah.
It sounds like that is your roots, and it grew almost like
Mm-hmm.
the momentum kept growing. Um, Eventually, it sounds like it's beyond that initial approach. Um,
Mm-hmm.
at what point did you decide that you want to look into counseling psychology as well? Because that is a more clear link into
Mm-hmm.
education of what you're doing. Uh, yeah, I'm just curious, how did you also find that
Transition.
particular aspect? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so after I graduated from uni, having studied finance, I worked in two financial institutions a little bit, and then because we're already working in the backgrounds in registering SpurAfrika, once the workload was getting too much, then I got into SpurAfrika, and as we continued just engaging and empowering these children, so the children we get onto our program are like in year two, year three, so they're about 9 to 10 years old. So for a long time, for about 8 or so years, most of the children that we work with were like below 18 years of age. So they were 9 to around 16 because they're in primary school and high school. So the more when you're working with people, people are the most lovely beings that we can engage with, but they're also most complex people that we can have. Once you think you figured a child out, then there's this challenge and there's this because people are always going through things. So even as we provided education and mentorship to the children that we serve, there was also just a need, you would see, because most of them have grown in a bit of challenging areas. They're either single parented or they have both parents. They're going through just different life challenges or like life transitions that force them to stay with relatives and all that. So there's a lot of mental health problems within the community, not just the children that we serve, but even the larger community that we're in. So I figured if I'm going to continue doing this, I might as well do it with enough knowledge to back it out. Because if I'm going to help someone, I really want to do it as best of my ability. So that is actually how I started just thinking about it, and I eventually got into counseling psychology. Yeah.
There are a lot of lessons in your story so far. And I came in thinking it was going to be simply, oh, you can change your career, because that's my own
Mm,
interest and bias. But what I'm saying is much more about you already used your interest and skills, you built something, and that something as grew in the background with the help of your partnerships and friends, you used what you already had. Then you identified other areas in which you wanted to improve yourself, and so you could do that work
mm,
better. And that's what led you to counseling psychology part, because it
yeah.
helps the community development. So it all
Hmm.
connects quite nicely. And I'm wondering, do you look back and say, oh, now it all makes sense? Or did you also, like some of our previous guests, plan this out on purpose?
Mm. Yeah, thank you. I think it's been a while since I had a question like that. So to be honest, at the beginning, it was really hard, especially the initial transition when I moved from finance. When I'm working in someone else's corporation, um, I just need to show up and do my job. All systems are in place, and I don't need
Yeah.
to be very worried at the end of the month. My pay is there. So when I transitioned initially from the bank into now my current job, I think that there's days I woke up and asked myself, like, what did you do, Sue? Like, was that the right decision? I think I had like a sort of like a very long, challenging year that every single day I woke up, questioned my decision. Was it the right thing? I used to call my friends in the bank. So how is it going? Have you been, sometimes they're promoted and I'm looking at SpurAfrika, it's like, oh God, like, how, like, is this thing growing and all that? So there's a sort of like a 1 year gap that was really hard. Um, and eventually I think, and also in that season I also got my daughter, so it was like, oh, now I have a child, and I left my job, I'm growing this thing, so I'm parenting, I'm growing this, and I'm also taking care of other people's children, so it was really hard. But then again, I think one day after like 15 or so difficult months of questioning myself, I just thought, um, I'm here. I might as well make the most of the space that I am in. So I looked at what was working then. So I was like, I'm grateful. I get to spend more time with my child. So I might as well spend more time with the child and then take care of this organization and grow it. So that is sort of like eventually I landed there. And I think as soon as I had a mind shift, then things started getting a bit easier. And I think now, when I look back, I'm happy I made the decision I did. If you would have asked me this question 13 years before, I would have said, "Hey, I wish I could turn back the hands of time." But now I'm at a happy place. Yeah.
Uh, uh, that was a beautiful answer, and honestly, thank you for sharing that vulnerable time, because this is the idea of why I'm doing this as well. People,
Mm,
we tend to see the glossy side, so I really appreciate you sharing that with us. But there was also persistence and tenacity. You said a year of doubting yourself every day, but you still kept at it. And finally,
mm,
that mindset shift when you made the decision and you just said, "Okay, this is it. I'm gonna make the best of it."
mm.
That is quite a key lesson. That honestly, I'm gonna write it down and put it here and remember it myself. It's something that is so important. So thank you for sharing that. And I feel like we've come full circle in terms of what I wanted and my curiosity as well. So I'd like to pass it on to you. Is there something else you'd like to share before we conclude?
Um, Thank you very much, Neville, for the opportunity. I think just having to share this and listen to myself. Sometimes in life, and even to anyone out there listening to this, there's different seasons that you've gone through in life that sometimes you don't give yourself enough credit for. And you may say it's luck or someone else helped you and all that. While it may be true, the other side of the coin is if you didn't stay long enough. If I didn't stay long enough, there wouldn't have been 500 children that have access to education today. Maybe I wouldn't have added to my academic knowledge. I would have just stuck with finance. So I'm very happy that I've got this opportunity to share. It's reminded me of why I am doing what I'm doing. And even now, I feel like I have more gas to continue going on. And if there's someone out there who's in between transitions or you want to make a change, if you'd ask someone if finance and psychology have a connection, probably no. But now, being in the field that I am in, even though I had years of doubts and all that, the work that I do, everything that I have studied over the years is very key in what I am doing today. So, in case you're out there and you're thinking about making changes or just transitioning or just trying out something new, then this is your cue. Go for it and stay in it long enough to get the results.
Uh, Thank you. I'm just gonna make that the motto of my channel, if you don't mind, because that's literally the idea here. And I'm also
Mm,
glad that it helped you as well, to hear yourself say the story, because you clearly deserve a lot of recognition, and giving that to yourself is it's very energizing. So it's a good reminder for all of us.
mm.
Good. Thank you, Sue. And just before we conclude, maybe people want to follow your work. So where can they find you online?
So we are on all social media pages. So on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, our handle is SpurAfrika. So SpurAfrika is spelled as SPUR, Africa AFRIKA. So our Africa has a K, and my personal handle is Sue Ojuki, SUEOJUKI. We would be very appreciative if you would follow us and share our work. And thank you very much.
Thank you. So for our viewers, I really think you guys should do that. And I'll see you next time for our next podcast chat.